Hi everybody. In this video, we're going to talk about the method to disclose each author's contribution on a scientific research paper. So not solely focused on medical science papers. So let's see first why contributions should be disclosed at all. Well, in today's research environment, where collaboration on multiple authorship are common, traditional author lists often fail to reflect the varied roles and efforts of each contributor. As the average number of authors in scientific articles grows, authorship related problems, ranging from disputes to outright misconduct, mount. So, when there are multiple authors, we tend to rely on the author in which the names are listed to infer lead contribution, but in fact, there really are no consistent name ordering practices from one field to the next. Check out my recent video on authorship for a little bit of background on this. So let's look at an example here. Um, this is the author list from a recent paper on oncology. We can see that all the authors are listed here as normally. Um, but we really don't know what the role or the contribution that each of these authors contributed or had in the paper. We can see, with respect to these footnotes, who the corresponding authors are. We can see that two authors contributed equally as first authors, but all these middle authors, the author list really doesn't tell us what their role was. So another reason why we should disclose authors' contributions is that most reputable medical research publishers adhere to the International Committee of Medical Journal Editors recommendations for the conduct, reporting, editing, and publication of scholarly work in medical journals. So these guidelines here. So these are incorporated into good publication practice and the author or submission guidelines for reputable journals. They all require that authors' contributions be disclosed in the paper or sometimes at the time of article submission. So, another reason why authors' contributions should be disclosed, well, for those seeking funding or career advancement, simply being named as an author may not offer sufficient acknowledgement of their contributions. Institutions and funders are developing more scientifically rigorous ways to track the outputs and impact of their research investments. So, a detailed description of a middle author's contribution to a paper may be important for that individual's career advancement or prospects of gaining research funding. So, in 2010, for example, a survey of medical researchers found that the number of publications, authorship order, and journal impact factor were all important factors for performance reviews and promotion at both academic and non academic institutions. The number of authors was not identified as important criteria, but these factors may be contributing to the increase in the number of authors we're seeing per publication. So, how, what options do we have with respect to disclosing authorship? Well, in 2014, CREDIT, that is the Contributor Role Taxonomy, was introduced with the intention of recognizing individual author contributions, reducing authorship disputes, and facilitating collaboration. The idea came about following a 2012 collaborative workshop led by Harvard University in the US and the Wellcome Trust in the UK, which input from researchers and the International Committee of Medical Journal Editors and various publishers. Um, so the Contributor Roles Taxonomy has 14 roles and that authors can choose from that best reflect their contribution. Um, these represent a simple but it represents a simple but cohesive system that enables the range and nature of contributions to a scholarly published output to be captured in a transparent, consistent, and structured format. So, an individual contributor may be assigned multiple roles, and a given role may be assigned to multiple contributors. When there are multiple people serving the same role, a degree of contribution may optionally be specified as lead, equal, or supporting. But I stress by no means do these being designated one of these specific roles or one or more alter the criteria for qualifying for authorship. If you're interested in learning more about authorship on a paper, see my recent video on authorship for more information on this. So let's have a look at the 14 roles in the contributor taxonomy. I've included a link to this list in the video description, so I won't read out the definition of each role, but this taxonomy overall it provides a high level classification of the diverse roles performed in the work, leading to a published research output. Remember, it doesn't always have to be a manuscript published in a journal, and it's applicable for all types of sciences, not just medical sciences. The roles include traditional authorship roles such as writing, reviewing, editing, but per the list we can see here, it's obvious the roles aren't obviously limited to these, and they're intended to apply to all those who contribute to research that results in a published manuscript or other publication. And it's recommended that all tagged contributors be listed here too, whether they're formally listed as authors or in the acknowledgement section. So at the end of a paper, above the acknowledgements, this is recommended where that a statement be included that summarizes the author contributions. Doesn't always have to be placed above the acknowledgement section. This may vary per authors or per journal's certain styles. So this is what we refer to as a T-Reddit statement. Using each author's initials is sufficient. Let's have a look at an example using the author list we previously looked at. Okay, so we can see here, this is great. We can see who performed what task, and we can see that several authors performed some of the same roles. Although not noted in this example, it's pretty standard for all authors listed on a paper to be noted as writing, reviewing, and editing a manuscript. May not always be the case, but it is generally common. With respect to responsibilities regarding the development and overseeing of the C-Reddit statement and collecting the information, well, it's recommended that the corresponding author assume responsibility for role assignment, and that all contributors are given the opportunity to review and confirm the assigned roles during various rounds of author review. A medical writer may direct the authors to whatever page the C-Reddit taxonomy table is on and ask them to confirm their roles. Eventually, the table will be converted by a writer into the C-Reddit statement that we saw. So medical writers can support and remind authors regarding providing their contribution at each different stages of development. But remember, more and more journals require this author contribution information be provided at the time of submission, so on the submission site. So for example, using Editage and other softwares or other submission site portals require this information, so you don't want to leave it to the last minute and just realize you don't have a C-Reddit statement or have asked the authors for these roles. So it's imperative to collect it as you're developing the draft. So finally, it's worth noting that in 2022, C-Reddit was approved as an ANSI NISO standards. So NISO, this is the National Information Standards Organization, and they're accredited by the ANSI. This is the American National Standards Institute. So NISO develops and maintains, publishes technical standards related to publishing, bibliographic, and library applications. So since 2022, the C-Reddit taxonomy has become an accepted standard for disclosing authors' contributions in a research paper. So it adds a bit more weight to the requirement of including this list. So in this video, to summarize, I've mentioned why it's necessary to disclose author's contribution, which is ultimately down to transparency. It's important that each listed author's contribution is clearly reported with respect to the roles listed in the C-Reddit taxonomy. This may support listed authors' career progression or acquisition of funding, adherence to the ICMJ scientific publishing guidelines as well, and journal-specific author guidelines. This is another reason why a C-Reddit statement should be included. I also went through an overview of the 14 contributor roles. We provided an example of a C-Reddit statement, and it provided an overview of the administrative aspects with respect to collecting the author's various C-Reddit disclosures during development. Please like this video if you found it interesting, as it helps the YouTube algorithm share the video with other people that might be interested in this content or find it useful. If you have any feedback or would like to hear about a certain topic, do please leave a note in the comments. Thank you.